Hello, 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 and welcome to the channel. In this episode, we are going to talk about Sister Wives, Season 17, Episode 13. What about Gabe? What about Gabriel? Before we go any further, I want to play a quick clip and I want you to take a listen and then we'll talk about it.
In January, I got COVID. I didn't even have a fever. I just lost my smell. October rolls around, specifically October 11th, my birthday. And dad calls me. And we have a small discussion about how bad my COVID was. I shouldn't have done this, but I did anyway. I didn't remind him that it was my birthday because I wanted to see if he remembered. And he didn't. And so to him, it was just a phone call, just asking me about COVID. It was a lot worse than just a phone call for me. But yeah, a couple hours after that, he tried to call me back, tell me happy birthday and make up for it. And that's the last time I ever talked to my dad.
Episode 13, the main thing that jumped out at me was the scene with Gabe. And I know everybody's interested in like what's going on with Kody and Janelle and Robin, and I'll do a video about that. But what really jumped out was the relationship that Kody has with Gabe, and also the relationship that Kody has with his older children. Kody has said that he puts more of an emphasis when it comes to nurturing his younger children, right? And having a relationship with his younger children than he does with his older children or adult children. And it's upsetting to hear that because your child, regardless of how old they are, would still love to have a connection or a relationship with their parent, a healthy connection and relationship in most cases. And in the case of Gabe, I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a young man who's heartbroken that he does not have that relationship with his dad, that closeness with his dad that he wants to have. Episode 13, Kody and Robin's household, they are diagnosed with the 19. And I won't say the full thing because I don't know how YouTube feel about how YouTube feels about it right now. So just follow me here. You know what I'm talking about though. They get diagnosed with the 19. Kody calls Gabe to ask Gabe about his symptoms because Gabe previously got diagnosed with the 19. And Kody is comparing notes essentially. Now the day that Kody chose to call Gabe was Gabe's birthday. And so it's like, dag, of all days to call and want to get information about the 19, you do it on Gabe's birthday. And not just that he called about this specific topic, but that he did not even acknowledge the young man's birthday. And so Gabriel in the clip is saying, I didn't say it was my birthday. And I believe he didn't say it was his birthday because he wanted to believe that his father remembered. And the fact that his father didn't remember and called him hours later to say happy birthday, I think for Gabriel, it further intensified this idea that Kody doesn't care as much about Gabe that Kody doesn't care as much about Gabe and maybe some of his other children the way that he cares for Robin's children. And that is heartbreaking. And if you watch the clip, you see this young man, he sobs as he's telling the story. He has to take a minute and gather himself. And yeah, it's heartbreaking because you see somebody who wants that close relationship with his father. We know that they've been struggling because they've talked about it last season and this season because of Kody's regulations or restrictions regarding the 19. And Kody felt that Gabe and some of his other older children weren't adhering to his regulations. And that began to cause some friction. If you listen to what a lot of the family members say, the friction was already there. I think the 19 just really emphasized what was already going on in the family. But the friction was already there. If you listen to what they say, and from Gabe's perspective, you have your dad call you and he's talking to you about his symptoms and he's asking you questions about your symptoms, but he doesn't say happy birthday. He doesn't even acknowledge that it's your birthday. Again, heartbreaking. Again, it shows perhaps to Gabe that, okay, well, you really just don't even care about our relationship anymore. You don't care about me anymore. Now, in Kody's defense, he had the 19, right? Like this whole household has the 19. And that's scary. And I don't want to minimize that. I'm sure you probably at this point, if you haven't had it yourself, you know somebody who's had it. And it can be very, very scary. So I don't want to minimize that. Perhaps Kody called and he was just trying to really put some pieces together because maybe he needed to do that to like calm what was going on with him. And yet he could have also acknowledged that it was his son's birthday. Because I can understand wanting to get more information, wanting to compare notes, wanting to know as much as you can, wanting to, prepare yourself for what to expect possibly. And yet you still can acknowledge your son's birthday. I think it's important for parents to I think it's important for parents to remember that the way they parent is going to change. When children are little, or we talk more about the developmental stages when children are younger, right? And I think we forget that as we grow, we enter these different stages. So even as adults, we're now in this new stage of life, or in this period of life, and it doesn't mean we don't want to have a relationship with our parents. It doesn't mean we don't want to be close with our parents. It means the relationship has to adapt. And so most parents are usually good at adapting their parenting when it's younger children. But I think for some parents, they forget that they have to adapt their parenting when it comes to older children, older adolescents, or young adults. And honestly, I think that's what we see here with Kody, especially because he said he doesn't really his focus is on the younger children. And it's like, but Kody, your older children, they need you too. And most of them want to have a relationship with you, which is awesome. So, how can you nurture these relationships as well? How can you pour into your older kids the way you do your younger children, or the way you did when they were younger? I don't want to make it seem like Kody has always been this terrible dad, right? Because and also Kody has multiple children, so we know that his relationships with his children are going to be different. They're not going to all be the same, and that's okay. But we've heard some of his kids talk about how awesome he was when he was younger, when they got to see him. No shade. That kind of sounded like shade, but that wasn't shade. But like, when they spent time with him, or when they spent time all together as a family, he was able to have that type of relationship with them then. I hope that he remembers he can also have that relationship with them now. And that just because they are older, it doesn't mean that they don't want him to be in their lives, or they don't want him to parent. The way that he parents is his older children, it's just going to look a little different because they're older. So as an adult, right, or as an older adolescent, you still need your parent. You do, for guidance, support, accountability, somebody to laugh with, talk to. Like, it still comes in handy having a parent. And this is why we want to foster, healthy relationships. And I do understand that it's not the same for everybody, and for different circumstances, that everybody will not have relationships with their parents when they get older. They made the decision, right? Boundaries and all that. And I understand that and I respect that. For the purpose of this video, and talking about this particular family, the Brown family, most of his children, it sounds like they still want a relationship with him, a close relationship with him. And so as I started to say, the way that he parents, that may change, that has to shift because now they're older, but it doesn't mean he has to stop, pouring into them. That it doesn't mean that he has to stop um looking for ways to connect and to make it work with his older children. And it kind of feels like that's what he's done, and that's just messed up. And that's what brings us to talking about Gabriel, this young man who is heartbroken, and maybe he feels forgotten, or maybe he feels that he's just not as important to his father, and perhaps he wants to be. Perhaps he wants to be important with it to his dad. He wants that relationship. He wants to foster a relationship, to cultivate a relationship with Kody. What did you think about that scene with Gabriel? Do you think that he and Kody will be able to develop a bond again? Do you think that they will be able to get past this 19 stuff and regulations? It was interesting because Kody, once he and Robin and her household got the 19, Kody said, "Well, now I'm just I'm upset about something to the effect of I'm upset about the time we've lost, and now I'm angry about it." And so he it was interesting to hear him say that, because so much of the conflict regarding the 19 with the older children was that they still wanted to socialize with their peers or their partners and things like that. And the hope is that they would socialize and be, responsible. But, Kody was like, no, everybody needs to like quarantine, separate, isolate. And now you see him in episode 13, really question that decision. And I think he asked the question, like, was it worth it? But I don't recall him answering it. And so I really do wonder if Kody believes the choice he made, the regulations he had, was it worth it? Because now it's like his family is so fractured and divided. And so obviously I'm not saying not to take the 19 seriously. I hope, you know, he is and we all are and all that jazz. It's looking for like what that balance is, right? And so it's just really, it was really interesting to hear him say that, and to hear him start to question his decisions, to hear him question his decisions in the same episode that we see Gabriel really break down, really sob about his dad not, and obviously it's more than just his father not remembering his birthday, but that was the incident that happened, right? We see him like become really emotional when he's retelling the story. And so let me know in the comments, do you think Gabe and Gabriel and Kody are going to be able to reconnect? And do you think, well, I was going to say, do you think Kody made a mistake with those regulations? But I won't throw that question out there. For now, we'll just talk about his relationship with Gabe, and what you think some of Cody's regrets might be if you watched episode 13. I would love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Listen, that's all I got for today. So come on back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.